Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back. Hope you're getting your week off to a good start. This is going to be part 2 of this series where I'm covering the Rebel Moon companion guide that Netflix has developed. It's online, you can read through it, and there's some audio clips to listen to as well. I started with part 1, so if you missed that part, you can head over to the channel and see that section as well, covering the Mother World details that are included in the guide. So if you want to get caught up on part 1, that's on the channel. But if you're new, thank you for checking out my video, and don't forget to like and subscribe before you leave if you enjoy it. So at the end of my video, part 1, we concluded talking about the Jimmies, the robots that I think everyone is becoming really fond of and can't wait to see more of. And just to get you caught up, if you didn't see my part 1 video, this is a guide that Netflix made for Rebel Moon. It kind of gives an in-depth guide and details into the universe and the main planets, the main parts of the universe, and the characters. But as I mentioned in part 1, there is a spoiler alert at the beginning of the guide, in which I will also tell you guys there are potential spoilers in the guide. I think, for the director's cut that we haven't seen yet, because this guide covers part 1, A Child of Fire. Alright, so after we leave off with learning about the robots, we pick up with wheat, which is obviously an important component of part 1, A Child of Fire, because that is the resource that the Imperium is trying to take from this village in Veldt, where we find Korra in this little farming village. So it says the fields of wheat that cover much of the Veldt moon are essential to its people, and because food sources are an unstable resource in the galaxy, the fertile harvest is also the reason the farming community will soon be threatened. The villagers of Veldt rely on wheat for food and for bartering, but when the dreaded Imperium descends and demands a wheat tithe from the village, our story is set into motion, and that's how we see Rebel Moon Part 1 kick off, right? Now, the moon of Veldt, again, it's not a planet, it's a moon. It's a moon that orbits the giant gas planet of Mara, home to the idyllic farming village at the heart of Rebel Moon. Its position in the realm is a backwater world outside of Mother World's sphere of influence, which we hear who's called the father of the village, say to Admiral Noble, we're outside of the influence of the Imperium. They don't really get involved with all of those politics. And its primary source of commerce is wheat. We have that beautiful image of Korra. I've always loved that picture. The backdrop is just beautiful. Her profile is described as a stranger with a mysterious past who is taken in by a small farming community after crash landing near their village on the backwater moon of Veldt. She possesses unparalleled combat abilities, a skill set she keeps secret until the armies of Motherworld threaten her village with annihilation. Her lineage is described as an off-worlder adopted by Regent Belisarius, then an Imperium officer. After her family was slaughtered by Motherworld, Korra was unwittingly raised to be the perfect killer. And we covered Regent Belisarius' profile in the video part 1 of this series. Training. Korra trained at the elite levels of the Academy Militarium years after Noble, although her off-worlder status had to be kept a careful secret. We also covered Admiral Noble's profile in the video before this one, part 1. And that's an interesting detail that was not maybe we'll see that detail revealed in the director's cut, that since she was not from the Mother World, like she wasn't born there. Now her escape says, in the wake of the royal family's assassination, it took Korra nearly 3 years to make it from Moa to Veldt. And so we know that she did, it says she crash lands there when she escapes after she obviously failed to protect the royal family from their assassination. There's also some more details in that story, or that section of the guide, in the video before this part 1. Now here we have the Guardian gun. This is what we see in Korra that she carries with her, and before she leaves the village, he gives it back to her, and he kept it for her. The man who found her, I forget his name, the man who found her in the crash landing, he kept it for her. So we see it has this really beautiful design, its inscription. The story behind this is Korra's sidearm is inscribed with a cryptic saying, "My life for hers," a sturdy weapon that for Korra bears the weight of her former duty as royal sentinel and bodyguard of Princess Issa, and the shame she carries for her ultimate failure to protect her charge. Korra continues to wield the weapon as a reminder of its tragic history. And that's one of the things that we see at the end when Admiral Noble is confronting her and their little team. He takes that from her. He uses this to identify who she is. Here's the guy that found her, Hagen. Okay. A villager who takes Korra in after her ship crashes in the wheat fields of Veldt. He encourages her to make a life there, but Korra is a child of war, broken and unable to call any place home. We see her kind of describe that in the film, and I'm guessing all of these things will go into more detail in the director's cut, of course. Sam A farm girl whose quiet strength and purity of spirit quickens Jimmy's heart, waking him to a purpose once again and setting in motion a chain reaction destined to turn the tide of the coming battle of Veldt, for Veldt. So we see this really sweet, heartwarming interaction between her and Jimmy in the movie. We see that he protects her, which is kind of like I mentioned in the part 1 of this series, that since the Jimmys no longer have the royal family to protect, in particular Princess Issa, they kind of had laid down their arms and don't really fight back anymore or protect using weapons. But we see that Jimmy, this Jimmy that we have in the movie, he surprises everyone by protecting Sam and taking up arms once again. Okay, moving on to Gunnar, a naive farmer who joins Cora on a journey to find warriors who will protect Veldt from the Imperium. Gunnar is desperate to make up for the mistake that put his village in danger, selling their surplus wheat to the Blood Axe rebels. As the pair venture out on their quest, Gunnar will have to draw deep from within himself to find the strength to continue. His heart is open, but will that be enough? And we see what he does. He's very naive about what these soldiers will actually do to this village. And he's, he kind of figures like we can be on their good side if we sell our wheat to them, and they'll have to keep us alive because they'll need us. And he's kind of very like naive about the whole situation, and obviously he feels guilty about what happened to the father of their village and his wife. So as a child, Cora's life was spared by Belisarius, and he adopted her as his own daughter. That scene to me was pretty shocking, that she, spoiler alert, tries to kill him as a child. And I think that's like what he sees in her and decides to take her to raise her as a soldier because she tried to do that. Belisarius named her Archelaus and taught her the hard lessons of war. And we see that Admiral Noble just calls her by this name. Cora attended the Academy Militarum and was remade in the image of her adopted father, Regent Belisarius. And he was very, decorated in their military. At the age of 18, she was made an officer, given a command, and fought for the king under the banner of the army that murdered her family. And we hear her kind of use that. That's also like a piece of dialogue that she uses in the film to describe what she became. Following Cora's military success, Belisarius engineered an appointment to act as royal seneschal, I don't know how to say this word, and bodyguard to the king's daughter, the Princess Issa. Issa was called the Chalice, the Redeemer, the Lifesaver, a divine being born of flesh and blood, who is said to have the power to restore life. And we remember that in the film, when Cora is kind of giving some of her history, sharing some of her history with Gunnar, she describes, seeing Princess Issa do things that she couldn't even really explain. The galaxy's faithful believe that Issa could usher in a new age of peace and compassion after years of war. And some of that was kind of described also in the video that I did before this, part 1, how this compassion and path of peace influenced her father, the king, and how that led to their assassination, because the senators they did not want that. Issa's benevolent influence over her once fearsome father frightened his warmongering allies, and the ambitions of Belisarius overrode his loyalty to the king. The coup struck with fury, and the world was forever changed. Moving on to port city of Providence, Veldt, where we see Cora and Gunnar go to get information about how to find the blood axes that Gunnar sold wheat to. A port city about 2 days' ride from Cora's village, Providence is not a place for lingering, just for passing through. Everything is for sale for anyone who has money or doesn't mind paying with blood. And we see some of that interaction going on in this brothel that they enter. There's a whole bunch of different looking things, different looking beings that they designed and came up with for this film, for this universe. Now, moving on to Kai. Kai, a smuggler with enough roguish charm to fill the cargo hold of his ship, a Taiwu-class freighter that he agrees to pilot for Cora and Gunnar. Kai is an incorrigible scoundrel and proud of it, but he seems to be won over to the ragtag duo's sincere belief in their cause. His homeworld? Kai is known by his enemies as the bastard from Sojourn, a planet raised by Mother World. Trades in anything he can get his hands on. And we see that he kind of has all these different connections and knows a lot about different things. And he kind of he describes himself as an opportunist, which if you've seen part 1, that definitely makes even more sense at the end of the film. And we see these unique pieces of equipment being used as restraints for bounty hunters, and that's what these hawkshaws are. The realm's bounty hunters always on the lookout for a quick score off of a warm or cold body. And we see they're described as this frightening device comes from the heart of Motherworld. Its biomimicry is a hallmark of Imperium design. These are like exoskeleton restraints. They're pretty interesting and they look scary. We see Kai kind of doing some kind of deal with one of these bounty hunters there in the brothel, and then again at the end of the movie it kind of all comes together and makes sense with that plot twist. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for part 2 of this series covering the Rebel Moon Companion Guide. Again, there are some audio clips that are sprinkled throughout the guide, but for sake of time, I'm not playing the audio clips, but if you want to read through the guide, you can listen to them. Zack gives a little bit more detail on certain parts of the weaponry or certain characters. Next, we'll cover this section titled Nuwadi, and in each section it covers the characters that are kind of connected to that part of the universe. If you have been enjoying this companion guide that I've been reading through, make sure you subscribe and turn notifications so that way you can know when I post another video, but we'll continue on with part 3 covering the next section in the guide. In the meantime, thank you guys for the support. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and check out the short section on my channel if you're interested. Thank you guys for watching. See you soon.